Hey Mama, I'm so glad you're here. Have you ever wondered what kind of woman Naomi was that made Ruth leave everything behind to follow her? The story of Ruth isn't just about loyalty. It's about the kind of faith that inspires others to follow God. Today we're looking at what it means to be both a Naomi and a Ruth, to live a life that points others to Christ, and to have the courage to follow him no matter the cost. So wherever you are today, Mama, grab that cup of tea. If you're on the go today, get the volume turned up, and let's dig into this beautiful story together. Hey Mama, I know you're busy. You're living in piles of laundry, you don't know what's for dinner, and there's probably a really annoying kid song stuck in your head. In the middle of all that, you're trying to figure out how to build a Christian home that actually stays rooted in faith. How do I know? Because I've been there. Hi, I'm Alyssa, teacher turned work from home boy mom, blogger, podcaster, and Jesus lover. I know that motherhood is beautiful, but it's also messy. And I've learned that the strongest homes aren't built on perfect routines. They're built on prayer, God's word, and a relationship with Jesus that grows one day at a time. So together, we'll learn to pray boldly over our homes, understand the Bible more deeply, and build a family rooted in biblical truth. You've got this, Mama, and you don't have to do it alone. The story of Ruth has long been a favorite of mine in the Bible, as I think it is many women. And the commitment that Ruth shows to her mother-in-law, to Naomi, it's so touching. And that loyalty, and I mean, the whole story is just, it's so beautiful. But we're digging in today a little deeper into Ruth, but also Naomi, because I know that for myself, whenever I read the story or we talked about the story, I mean, Ruth is sort of the main character in this story, and rightly so. But Naomi is also an important piece and also an important part of this story. And she actually shows us another piece of how we as women need to be behaving and how we need to be acting. And so just to kind of recap, so Naomi was married to a man and they lived in Judah and they moved to Moab. They had two sons who married Moabite women, so Ruth and Orpah. And so Naomi's husband and her sons both die. And so she is now a widow, and then her two daughter-in-laws are also widows. So she decides she's going to go back to Judah, back to her home where she's from. She's, has no reason to stay any longer. And so her two daughter-in-laws start to go with her, and she eventually says to them, you know what, just go back home. There's no reason for you to follow me. Like, my life is not good right now. You don't need to follow me. And Orpah, the one daughter-in-law, says, initially says no and then is convinced to go. And Ruth says, no, Naomi, I'm going to go with you. Wherever you go, I am going to follow you. And so she can't be convinced to leave. And so she follows Naomi back to Judah. She goes with her. And this is where I'm kind of going to pause. The first sort of point that I want to talk about, and this thing that I have just recently really started to think about, was why did Ruth follow Naomi? And talking a little bit more specifically about Naomi and what was it about Naomi that made Ruth want to follow her? So Naomi she had two sons, which I have two boys. So it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be that mom. I'm going to be the mother-in-law, the one with two boys. But whether you have boys or girls, eventually the hope is that one day we will be a mother-in-law, that we will have daughters-in-laws or sons-in-laws. And the hope is that we can be like Naomi, where we are able to lead our families, lead our daughters-in-laws or sons-in-laws on the path of righteousness, or we are able to shine that light so that they want to follow us. And this is something that we see with Naomi. I mean, we don't actually get to see how she and Ruth, like their relationship and how they interacted. We don't ever get to see that in the Bible, but there must have been something there that gave Ruth the desire to want to follow her, to leave everything that she knew and to trust her, to go with her, to help her, to take care of her. And so it speaks to who we are as mothers, and not just for our own children, but beyond that, and who we get to serve and who we get to shine that light for and perhaps lead, that we would want to make them, want to follow us. And I mean, it can feel a little bit like that's kind of a lot of pressure, but not really. If we're living our lives according to the Bible and living our lives for Christ and shining that light, living that joy and contentment, then yeah, people will want to follow us. Now, we know that Naomi does become a little bit bitter. I mean, naturally, she's lost a lot of her family. And so Ruth has become a real comfort for her, or at least we can assume that she probably has, because we then go on to see what Ruth does. And if we continue on in this story, Ruth takes care of Naomi, and she goes and she gleans in the fields, and she is noticed by Boaz, and then Naomi becomes a little bit of a matchmaker. And then Ruth eventually marries Boaz. But part of the reason why Boaz actually took notice of her is because he had heard about her and what she had done, because she had gone with Naomi. And so it's sort of that idea that your reputation precedes you. But thinking about Ruth and who she was as a person, she had followed Naomi. She had that courage, she had that strength, that loyalty, that commitment to follow Naomi. And people noticed that. People saw that when Naomi came back, and she came back with this daughter-in-law, only one of them. And I'm sure people talked and they said, wow, like that Ruth, like she followed Naomi. And so that courage that she had is actually what then allows her to marry someone. So she marries Boaz, and she eventually becomes the great grandmother of King David. She becomes part of that line of kings, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. She had never set out to do that. That was never her intention when she agreed to follow Naomi. But that's what ends up happening. And so when we look at these two women and we think about the roads that they were walking and the paths that they were walking, so we have Naomi as sort of that mother figure, and how she was able to lead Ruth one way or the other, whether she had that light in her, that joy in her, she had enough of something that made Ruth want to follow her. But then Ruth also had the courage to follow her. And we as women of faith, we as moms, need to have those same characteristics. We need to have the Naomi, where we are leading our children and the future children of our children and the families that they may have. But we also need to have the courage to walk that path following God. We need to have both pieces. And I think this story is such a really beautiful way of reminding us of that we need to have both of those pieces in our lives as we are serving God, that we need to have the courage to serve Him. Sometimes we are going to have to walk away from the things that we know. Ruth walked away from everything that she knew in Moab, her family, her friends, everything. She walked away from all of it so she could follow Naomi. And that courage actually ends up blessing her. And very much so the same with God, where He may ask us to walk away from what seems to be good things that we enjoy, because He has even better things in store for us. And we have to have the courage to walk that path. And so I think about that as a mom so often. Am I walking that path? Am I choosing courage even on those really hard days? And sometimes I have to choose endurance more than courage. Because it can be really hard. It can be really hard to walk away from being comfortable. Being a mom can be really, really uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but some days I'm just like, I'm really tired and I'm really uncomfortable. I would really like to sit down for a minute and I can't. And we have to have that strength to carry on and to shine that light, to have that inner joy that sometimes feels really hard to muster. But God is the one who is going to provide it for us, and He's going to walk with us. Just as He was with both Naomi and Ruth as they were both walking those roads, He was with them and blessing them through all of that. Naomi eventually, she has a daughter-in-law who's able to really take care of her because she was able to marry Boaz. And so they were both taken care of because of the courage that they had, that faith that they had, and the roads that they were walking, because they were good roads. They weren't easy, but they were good. And so that's the reminder that I know I am pulling from that myself, that sometimes we are asked to walk a road that is not easy, but it is good. Because God doesn't promise easy things, but He does promise good things. If we are willing, if we have the courage to follow, and then those roads are made ready for other people, for our family, for our children, for our future daughter-in-laws and sons-in-laws and future family, because we can have that joy. We can have that light that makes them want to follow us, that makes them see Jesus in us, in the way that we are behaving. Doesn't mean we have to be perfect every day. Doesn't mean that we have to say all of the right things all of the time. We can stumble and fall. Naomi gets to Judah and tells them to call her Mara, which means bitter, because she was in grief. She was grieving the loss of her family. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to have difficult times. But it means that if we keep our eyes on God and we are focusing on Him and seeking His comfort in all of those times, that He will have good things in store for us. So take encouragement from that. Go and read the book of Ruth yourself and think about that. Think about Naomi. Think about Ruth. Again, we're not told all of these things. You sort of have to imply it, think about it. But it is inspiration for us as moms. And I have found it to be incredibly inspiring. And just that reminder of the small steps that we take every day, in the uncomfortable, in the days when I'm feeling tired, that they have big rewards later on, and I just have to have the courage and the endurance and the joy to maintain it. So if you want to read this blog post, I'm going to link it down in the show notes for you. You can go and check it out. If you're looking for more about women in the Bible, I'm going to link in the show notes for you the blog post about Mary, Jesus' mother, just a really short sentence that she has in the Bible that speaks volumes to what she understood about Jesus, and sort of how we as mothers have an intuition and a faith in our children that sometimes is beyond comprehension. So I'm going to link that down in the show notes for you as well. And I hope you have a really fantastic week, Mama, and we will catch you next week. Thanks for joining me today. Before you go, can I ask you for a quick favor? If this episode encouraged you today, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you know another mama who could use this encouragement, share this episode with her. It might be exactly what she needs to hear. And if you have a minute, leaving a review means so much. It helps more moms just like you find this podcast and start building a Christ-centered home too. I'm so grateful you're here, and I pray that your coffee stays hot, your kids stay calm, and you keep Jesus in your heart. Until next time, Mama, God bless.